Wilfred Fawcett was born in 1885 and went by the name Billy. When Billy Fawcett was 16 years old, he ran away from home to join the Army and fight in the Spanish-American War. As an Army captain during World War I, he had some experience with the Army publication Stars and Stripes magazine. This gave him the idea to launch his own publication. 34-year-old Captain Billy Fawcett founded Fawcett Publications in 1919 to publish Captain Billy's Whiz Bang, a humor magazine. Whiz Bang was a slang term that first came into use in 1915 to mean conspicuous for excellence, and was the nickname of a destructive World War I artillery shell. Starting in 1920, he added more magazines to his roster of publications, and at the 1924 Summer Olympics, he competed in the men's trap event, which is a shooting competition. Fawcett would die in February of 1940 at just 54 years old, during the same month that Fawcett Publications would publish its first comic book. At this point, the company was being run by his sons, and they would be prompted to enter the superhero comic field by the success of Superman over at DC Comics. To secure copyrights as quickly as possible while working on a publication, companies would put out what are called ash cans. These are small, black and white, very short print runs of the first 8 pages or so of a comic book that is being worked on. Fawcett's first one in late 1939 was titled Flash Comics No. 1, and inside had a story being worked on called Golden Arrow, about a Western hero with a bow. This was immediately followed by Flash Comics No. 1 with a story about Captain Thunder inside, and on the cover, a character created by writer Bill Parker and artist C.C. Beck. That's when they found out that DC Comics, which was also called National Publications at the time, had just put out their own Flash Comics ashcan for their January 1940 comic release. So Fawcett put the ashcan back out with the title changed to Thrill Comics No. 1. But Standard Publications had just put out Thrilling Comics No. 1. Well, that's not all. Inside Flash Comics No. 1 was a character named Johnny Thunderbolt. By now, Fawcett was done with their comics, so they changed the name to Whiz Comics, started it with issue number 2, and changed the name of the character to Captain Marvelous. Well, they almost did. They shortened it to Captain Marvel, even though Timely had recently published Marvel Comics. So now we have Fawcett Publications' first superhero character, Captain Marvel, whose alter ego is Billy Batson, starring in Whiz Comics, Captain Billy Whiz, Captain Billy's Whiz Bang. The next issue, Whiz Comics No. 3, was actually only the second issue of this new title, so they numbered Whiz Comics No. 4 as No. 3 as well. So now the comic published with a No. 4 on the cover would be the 4th issue of Whiz Comics. Captain Marvel would go on to sell more comics than Superman and get the first live-action movie serial made about him. DC Comics would sue Fawcett over copyright infringement for so long they put them out of business. Marvel Comics snatched up the rights to the name Captain Marvel, and even though they have never had a successful comic series with a character named Captain Marvel, they've had to keep publishing different ones since the 1960s just to keep the copyright. DC Comics would lease the Fawcett characters for decades and add Captain Marvel to the DC universe. But because Marvel Comics owned the copyright to the name, they used the character's magic word Shazam on the cover. Eventually, DC would buy the characters from Fawcett, and after a few more decades, they would change Captain Marvel's name to Shazam. So let's look at what I have. It's Captain Billy's Whiz Bang, issue 19 from the year 1921, and I got this for only $26. Let's take a look inside. It's tiny! 25 cents, that would be a lot at the time. Explosion of pedigreed bunk. America's magazine of wit, humor, and philosophy with an F. Edited by a Spanish and World War veteran and dedicated to the fighting forces of the United States. Drippings from the faucet, oh that's pretty clever. Patrick's Gold Piece, Chaplin's New Love, Whiz Bang Philosophy with a V. Adventures of Sven. He is Ollie, you are Sven. Atta, you are my new friend, I share meet you. Midnight Madness. The 7 Ages of Man. Such is Life. Strolling with Jane Gates. Questions and Answers. Dear Whiz Bang Bill, why do people insist on telling liquor jokes? Probably because they're the only kind to have spirit in them. Whiz-bang editorials. And that's the halfway point. In the back, you have your bathing beauties. So scandalous. And a catalog where you can buy nude photographs? Whoa! A cow! So let's put that back away. Check this out. Pretty cool, right? Sweet! And here's a facsimile edition of Whiz Comics number 2. I covered the story in an early episode of the Atomic Comic Pile, but we can flip through it here. As you can see, the cover is inspired by Action Comics number 1. So like all of these Golden Age comics, at the time they were anthologies. They introduce a bunch of characters, and the popular ones then spin off into their own titles. Captain Marvel, of course, got his Adventures of Captain Marvel, just like Action Comics got a Superman spin-off. And right there you can see the Golden Arrow. That was the first one they were working on when they put out that Ashcan edition. Now in that giant trade paperback, The Secret Origins of the DC Superheroes that I've had since the 1970s, but that my dad bought, or he printed it at work, one or the other. I already went over that in a previous video, and you got to see this origin story in there, as well as lots of other cool stories. Go back and watch that video. But now we get to see what happens in the rest of the comics. We've got Ibis the Invincible, pronounced Ibis. Hey, I got it right. Oh, isn't that interesting? In the 70s, they had the Shazam TV series, which was coupled with Mighty Isis. Ibis, and she was Egyptian, and look, it's a mummy. Coincidence? I think not. Ooh, I wonder if that's her. No, it's Princess Tai. Here we go. Golden Arrow. Consarn it, shoot down that balloon, get that gas formed, and destroy all the traces. You got it, boss. Hickety-jickety, Joe, there's a baby in that cat's maw. Ma? No, I'm your paw. Spy Smasher. Ooh, I've heard of him. Mysterious. I'm pretty sure he got a movie serial as well. Scoop Smith. I bet he didn't. Lance O'Casey, relaxing on his Junkanoo. The monkey's name is Mr. Hogan. That tiger's eating his crotch. Dan Dare in Seals of Doom. I've heard of Dan Dare. Haven't you? He's all naked. Oh, look. Okay, so they introduced the 7 new characters. You cut out this coupon. You write down your favorite. You mail it in. Your comic is ruined forever. Your family's in the poorhouse. Sorry. And look, they're still advertising for their Fawcett Publications magazines. And an ad for a typewriter. Tom Hanks would love this. While we're here, I can show you what's inside this facsimile edition of Flash Comics number 1. So I said Johnny Thunderbolt was inside, but right on the cover it says Johnny Thunder. Probably why they changed Captain Thunder's name. And like I said before, go watch that old video of mine to see this Flash origin story. But here's what's next. Cliff Cornwall, Special Agent by Sheldon Moldoff. I met Sheldon Moldoff. No, that's right. I didn't. I went to go meet him because he was the last living artist to ever work on Action Comics number 1. He did the baseball ad in the back cover, and he died the day before I met him. That's actually happened a couple of times. Look, we have the first appearance, origin, and introduction to the Hawkman. Oh, that's straight out of Hal Foster. Prince Valiant, right? Ooh, this is different than the one I showed in that old video. I think, you know what? In that Secret Origins trade paperback, they just had the Silver Age Hawkman origin story, where he comes from another planet with Hawk Girl. I think. I mean, some of this looks familiar. Maybe it has both. I don't know. It's been a while for me, too. And I showed before Johnny Thunderbolt. He gets a monkey, too! Warfare in space! Ralph Farnham, Space Pirate. Hello. The Dummy Demon. The Whip. No caballero so stirred the hearts of the people as did El Castillo. And that's it. One last thing. This new facsimile edition that came out earlier this year or late last year is the first time they've been able to reprint Gangway for Captain Marvel on one of the few times they've reprinted this comic over the years. It's always been left off, but it's back, baby! Until next time.